All right. Next thing I want to talk about is social conditioning. But before I do that, I've kind of gone into a lot of different directions with all the evolutionary psychology and honest signals and RAS and all that kind of stuff. So it may be a lot right now. I want to take, if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, I'll take some questions, see if I can explain and just clarify any of that before we get on to the next section. So yeah.
So would you recommend being a lover like throughout your progression of game, and when you get older, become the provider for long? So basically, do the whole hookup, one-night stands, and when you're mature, do the whole long-term relationship thing?
Well, so any interaction you have with a girl, she can't judge how you were 20 years ago. She can only judge how you were with her.
Gotcha.
Okay? So I wouldn't say like start out as a young guy and be like the lover guy, and then as an old guy become the provider guy. Right. But what I would say is if you want to go for a lot of hookups, be the lover guy for sure. Right? In fact, being the provider guy can hurt you in terms of getting hooks. That's something we'll talk about tomorrow a lot. But what I would say then is if you decide you actually want a deeper relationship with a particular girl, then you can allow yourself to go into that provider frame a little bit. A friend of mine who has really, really good game, he has this thing, he calls it the buy a steak dinner method, right? And that's not a method to have sex with a girl, because a lot of guys do that. A lot of guys do the buy a steak dinner to have sex with a girl, right? Let me show her I'm affluent and I can like take her out and that kind of stuff. What he does, he sleeps with a girl, but then he'll take her out for a steak dinner to show her he actually like is okay taking care of her a little bit and actually cares. Right? He'll take her on a date to show he cares. So I would say that what you should do is start out with most girls in that lover frame, or err on that side. It's okay if you're a little provider. It's okay if you have that aspect, right? Because again, if you could be a 10 out of 10 lover and a 10 out of 10 provider, of course you'd want that too, right? But it's easier to move from lover to provider than the other way. So err on that side at first, but then once you've hooked up with a girl a couple times, you actually have a connection, you've decided you like this girl, by all means, you can allow yourself to have some provider characteristics.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you've fallen kind of into that like provider frame, like, you know, the girl sees you that way, I have an issue where like sometimes I'll just throw it away. So like I'll completely stop talking.
Okay.
Or I don't know where to kind of like draw the line.
Okay, so just
I feel like maybe just me ignoring them and completely never talking to them ever again. I feel like that's a bad move.
Well, it's certainly not going to get you a result in that instance. Okay, so the best way to avoid being in the exclusively provider frame is to not get there in the first place, so to speak. But if you are there, it's not necessarily the worst thing to do. What you need to do is start doing more of the qualities of the truly alpha attractive man, like the lover type frame, and you can gradually have that perception. I'll make a distinction right now, which is the distinction between a cold approach pickup and a social circle pickup. Right? Social circle being where you know someone, they get to know you over time, like you're in class with them, you go to work with them, you have friends of friends in common, that kind of thing. A lot of times on a cold approach pickup, it's almost necessary that you start out as high value and then build the comfort over time. The reason for that is if they don't see you as value immediately, why would they stick around to find out more? Okay, so it's almost a necessity that you start high value in that context. However, in a social circle context, if you are a member of that social circle and it is like a social circle that the social circle has value, a lot of times that value is a provider value. For example, say you went to the same school as a girl, like maybe the same college as a girl, right? Well, you're gaining provider value from that association, right? You have friends in common, which says to her, you're less likely to screw her over because you'd be burning all those social relationships. So that builds trust. The fact that you went to school with her means that you are educated and have some prospects job-wise. So that means you're already coming in a sense, from a provider frame, which provides some comfort, right? But because you also have a reason to hang out again, because you have those mutual friends, you have that mutual social connection, even if there isn't a ton of inherent lover value in the first interaction or in the first few interactions, that doesn't mean you can't then build that over time and she'll get to know that about you, right? Everybody's relationship with another person is growing and evolving over time. And I'll give you an interesting sort of an idea. People make decisions based on what we call heuristics, right? They take a variety of information that they're kind of receiving from the world or receiving from a person over time, and they're comparing it to previous information, right? And so, say for example, if I were to meet you, right? You're dressed in a particular way, right? So I would associate you with other people that have worn button-down shirts. of like, dark blue color and that type of shoes and that type of like the shirt under it, right? All those things are in that hairstyle. Like I can look at that and I'm putting you in a category based on my previous experience, right? So I'm making decisions based on that. The other thing that happens with people heuristically is that you have a variety of data for a particular person. You have old data and new data, okay? So if I knew you years and years ago and I also know you now, I'm gonna evaluate both of those data. However, I'm gonna assign more importance to the more recent data, okay? So the fact that at one point you are in a provider frame with someone, as long as that interaction continues and you continue to have interaction with them, if you from there give them better, more recent data of lover characteristics, you can always put yourself eventually into that other frame. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks.
Absolutely. One more? Okay.